And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. This weekend, we've got a WWE SummerSlam preview. All in, we're talking about as well. So catch us up every week right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, twice a week, wherever you get your podcast. Plus, also as well, Inside Sports Fantasy Football on the horizon because football is back. They're in training camps now. Exhibition season is just around the corner. So go ahead and check us out pretty soon right here at Inside Sports Fantasy Football and Game Source. Of course, LakersBall.com. Joe Soro, aka Ox1947, is there for you talking Lakers at LakersBall.com. Also, as well, he owns the company Simblades. Simblades with the Y.com. If you want your lawn transformed into something much better than it is today, go ahead and make sure you check out Simblades. Simblades with the Y.com. Our good friends, Jamie Sweet, who I actually talked to and interviewed last night on Baldur's Gate 3 coming out this week. That's actually also, that interview is going to be up on the Pop Culture Cosmos coming up this week. So you want to go ahead and check him out there, but also check out his 5 Things articles along with the number one Lakers blogger that's out there. That's Laker Tom. You know, Laker Tom is all over Twitter, approving or disapproving every trade scenario that's crazy that's out there, that's already out there for the Lakers. So go ahead and check him out today, Lakerholics.com. A good friend, John McCallion, he has lost 50 pounds. He's got 80 more to go. Plus, also as well, he has some great conversations in store for you after you're done here at the John McCallion channel on YouTube. Also want to give everybody a heads up. We've got lots of NBA previews we're trying to schedule throughout the months of August and September, so stay tuned with us. And the best way to do so is by subscribing. Subscribe below me with the little Joe with the beady eyes right there so you get the latest notification on when we go live on the air. It's not Lakers History 101, Serge, so it's okay to be late. Sean's just joining us now, so it's okay if you're late, Serge. No worries at all. But please go ahead and subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Lakers Fast Break podcast. All right, everyone. Still in the dog days of August, but I tell you what, we still got lots to talk about. And the one thing that a lot of people have been talking about out there in the Lakers media, because, you know, 3 weeks of Christian Wood articles isn't enough, is exactly who will be in the starting lineup. I know we touched on it over the past few days about our likes and dislikes. We've heard stories about Jackson Hayes possibly being promoted to the starting lineup. Rui Hashimura, because he's been, paid $17 million a year. Him being, I guess as far as because of cost issues, we got to go ahead and put him in the starting lineup. Jared Vanderbilt, who with some people, we could be on the way out for a sign and trade. He could be in the starting lineup as well. So we'll talk about that coming up on the show, plus also the great Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt the Stilt. Something interesting has happened in regards to a very special uniform that is going up for auction later this month. We'll tell you what you could do to order it if you want to, as far as being able to put a bid in. But before you do, just go ahead and hear what the thoughts are on how much it might cost you to go ahead and get this rare piece of NBA quality stuff right there for you. And we'll talk about that on the show as well. But first, it is the starting lineup. And again, lots of rumors and lots of innuendo talking about already, because we're not even at training camp yet, but already the starting lineups are being hinted upon by either interviews with Darvin Ham or just out there in rumors and innuendo. And here today to talk about the starting lineups that they would like to see as of now, because we do not have Christian Wood on the team, is all right. We got here first man up, first man here. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today at Lakerholics.com. It is Ox1947, Joe Soro. And Joe, you know what's been going on with the just travels of all these different articles that you're seeing out there on the internet in regards to who should start, who should start, who should start. We all know LeBron and AD are going to start. We all know Austin Reeves, hopefully coming off a successful performance coming up later this week, starting later this week with FIBA basketball, will also start. Then it gets a little bit murky from there after D'Angelo, if you want to go ahead and slot him in ahead of Gabe Vincent. but talk about a starting lineup that you want to see out there for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Well, in their current position, it's likely almost guaranteed to be D'Angelo at the 1, Austin at the 2, LeBron at the 3.3, I should say, Rui at the 4, and Anthony Davis at the 5. You'll have a 2020, or I should say modern offense with players that will keep the floor open. Everyone on that team could be considered someone who can make shots at any part of the court. That will likely be the starting lineup as of today. There could be a change if there is a legitimate center brought onto the team. But the longer this takes, the less likely it happens. And we would have to wait for the Lakers to see who kind of plays within the winning formula. And for those who don't, especially those with an expiring contract and maybe an asset to throw at something, maybe the Lakers can make an in-season trade for a legitimate 5 as things play out. I don't actually mind that. I actually think that would be kind of valuable. I would prefer to have everybody in training camp and not have to worry about doing a trade during the year. But the 5 is probably the one position you can just stick somebody in there and get some quick productivity. That's always been the case in the NBA. The center position is the easiest position normally to acclimate. And that's where the Lakers stand. Jackson Hayes is a name that we've been talking about here for a week. Unfortunately, if you use him for anything beyond a replacement or a true bench filler, you are going to be fairly disappointed. He's not a skilled player that's going to be starting material unless half the bigs are out due to injury. It's just not what he does. He's not particularly a consistent shot blocker. He doesn't shoot well. The only consistent play I'd seen in the last year with him is when he does play one-on-one on the perimeter, he does have enough footwork to keep the person in front of him honest. But if that person has a step on him, he's toast. So that's kind of what it is. Weak side shot blocker as well. That's the other part of his game in terms of productivity. As far as anyone else, you're basically at 2 bigs at this point. You do have Castleton, who's the rookie this year, that's on a 2-way. But I don't think this year is going to be, unless he has a massive improvement during training camp or something like that. I don't see him being someone we can plug in and play consistent ball and have someone that's consistent enough to play in the playoffs. I just see him developing this year and then possibly being someone who could be a rotational player in 2025.
Once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. It is our thoughts right here on who will be, as of now, because that is subject to change, our thoughts on the starting 5. It is Joe Soro, a.k.a. Oxide247 from LakersBall.com. But also here today, before we get to him, go ahead and want to mention that I noticed that some of the Lakers shows are just scrapping for content at this point in time. So it's interesting to see all these other Lakers shows strapping for content, including one of our competitors out there asking for interviews in regards to the SAG after strike. So it's interesting to see what I do already on a regular basis being copied and just basically just raked over the coals. Like unfortunately that I go ahead and try to make sure that everybody is covered in a sensible fashion, that on that as far as on the entertainment side, but I try to keep it mostly separate from this show. But it's interesting to see what happens when you have the slow months indeed. But also here today to go ahead and talk about what's going on with his starting 5 Good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out every time he's here. He's the madman from Toronto. He did get out of Toronto traffic to go ahead and help me start some of these NBA team previews. Good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out when he's here. It is the Magic Man, the double M, Sean Grice. And Sean, good to have you here. Talking about the Lakers starting five, you and I are trying to coordinate on some NBA team previews. We've started to tackle the Eastern Conference first. Your thoughts, though, on a starting five as of now, and of course, just like Joe and myself, whatever we offer now is always subject to change throughout the training camp and exhibition season.
Yeah, absolutely, Gerald. I think the starting lineup is going to be almost similar to the one we saw last year. We all know the three starters instantaneously. It's going to be Austin Reeves in the backcourt, and AD and LeBron in the front court. I think the two men who join them. I agree with Joe. I think it'll be D'Lo, and I think Darvin Ham will bring Gabe Vincent off the bench to start the season. And then ultimately, I see Jackson Hayes starting at the five, Gerald, but I see him as like a spot starting five. He's like a Frank Kaminsky or what Luke Longley used to be for the Bulls. You play for about the first 6 to 8 minutes, and then you're substituted out. Uh, that's kind of what the role I think Hayes is going to play, because ultimately the best defensive lineup last year, Gerald, included some combination of Jared Vanderbilt, Anthony Davis, and Austin Reeves, with really either like Rui or D'Lo beside him. So you're going to have to bring uh, Vando off the bench in order to kind of get that same versatility again, because I don't think you can start him.
Well, let me ask you this. When it comes to Jared Vanderbilt, that's obviously a great source of what we're talking about from a guy that some people last week wanted to do an assign and trade. I won't mention any names like Tom. But when it comes to what you're talking about with Jared Vanderbilt, everybody's talking about, oh, he grew a couple inches. He's close to 7 foot. The thing is, though, 7 foot is great on the defensive end. Obviously, a long reach. He needs to get around the screens a little bit better. That's what kind of cost him a little bit in the playoffs. But as far as the further it went, but also as well maintaining a consistent jump shot from the corners. Joe talked about all summer, long already about how he needs to be in the gym, shooting 1,000 a day, getting that consistency up, so where he's actually more consistent there, but also being more confident when he takes to the basket, because as we saw, as we close out the season and getting to the playoffs, him taking to the basket was an adventure. Sean?
Yes, it was. It was an adventure. I don't want to watch that again. It was some fun. Um, wasn't efficient, and quite frankly, Gerald thought it went on for too long.
Yeah. It did. But your thoughts on Vanderbilt as far as what he can do? Do you think he can actually increase his capabilities on the offensive end? You think he become a little bit more consistent enough to stay on the floor? Or do you still see this as a problem? Maybe more so in the playoffs, because when I talk a lot about a player, what they give you during the regular season, what we talk about in the playoffs, like for instance Christian Wood, we always go Christian Wood, what he'd be great fit, yada yada yada. For us, that's the regular season, what he can do for us. I don't expect a whole lot if he were to able to join the Lakers, as far as what he would give you during the playoffs. If he gives you anything positive during the playoffs, more power to him. But when it comes to Vanderbilt, you obviously saw in the first couple rounds what he could be a key as on the defensive end. But we also saw in the latter half of the Golden State Warriors, and then also in the Denver round, exactly what a minus he could be if he's out there on the floor.
Yeah, yes, Gerald. Uh, it's very good if he's gained a couple, if he's grown a couple inches, he's gotten stronger. That's great. I think you're not looking to him for a lot of offense, or at least I hope we're not, because that would mean there's a couple of injuries there and we're reliant on Jared Vanderbilt. But I think Gerald, we liked what we saw for the most part when he first started. Like he was playing a little fast and loose, but you and I were both pleasantly surprised with his ability to be a facilitator, especially in the open court.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's obviously a skill that he's honed in on, but it can always be improved. His corner 3-point shooting was fairly decent, Gerald, at times during those first two series. Not so much during Denver, but he hit an open shot when we needed one, especially against Memphis. Um,
But as it
but
started to go away, his time on the floor also started to go away as well.
yes, because he's very limited. He's not a lob threat. He doesn't have the requisite hands to finish strong at the rim. That's just the way it is. Usually, if there's little to no resistance, he can finish well. But if there's any kind of resistance or obstacle, Gerald, he gets butterfingers really quick. It's whether it's a fast entry pass that he makes the great cut, but he can't finish. Right? It's a lot what Gerald said. It's like $1 million move, but a 5 cent finish. That's almost what it's like with Vando at the rim. So um, I'm optimistic, Gerald, but realistic is thinking, hopefully he gets a lot more consistent at the corner three. I think they can develop him as a really good distributor and facilitator, as a secondary playmaker off the bench, because he would be able to facilitate in the high post. He's very smart. He knows to find the open man. He knows when to cut himself. So I think there are qualities that he possesses that the Lakers can utilize. It's just, you know, Darvin Ham really needed to hit the ground running with all these guys and just had to find something that clicked like almost instantly. He didn't really have a lot of time to dig deep down into the roots and see what's really going to be effective, Gerald. So I think he's had a complete off season to really try and hone in and develop the skills that he thinks can make these guys even better ball players.
Once again, it's the Lakers fast break. It is, of course, right here. We're talking about who we think should be, as of now, again, subject to change in the starting five. Joe, again, it seems to come down to a situation where D'Lo is fairly set in that starting lineup. In fact, he's pretty set in that starting lineup as of now. That is subject to change during the course of the season based on what he does and get the kind of productivity he gives you, and then especially in the playoffs, if he's still here listed on the team. Otherwise, if he does in here in the playoffs, then it could be a situation where with Gabe Vincent behind him, you may want to look at an alternative there. But when it comes to Austin Reeves, LeBron, and AD, that seems to be set. But it's that Rui Vando equation where we're talking about. You've seen the contract that Rui signed. What are the thoughts about the pressure that maybe the coaching staff might feel about trying to go ahead and sticking Rui in there as far as in that starting lineup, just because of the fact that again they owe him so much money at this point in time over Jared Vanderbilt.
Set of skills that works within the offense that you want to run, especially Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham predominantly wants to run a 3 guard type lineup. So if you have Austin Reeves, LeBron, and D'Angelo, you essentially, even though you don't really consider LeBron a guard, he is. And then to spread the floor, you're going to be able to put AD on one side and Rui on the other and keep the lane open. That is common sense telling us that's how that's going to play out. Gabe Vincent, players like that, let's not sleep on Max Christie. Max Christie might be the biggest threat to Jared Vanderbilt. I don't think it's going to be Rui. I think it's going to be Max Christie. If Max Christie plays defense well and can hit shots, you might see Vando either get traded or not play as much if he doesn't shoot well.
Well, that's the
So-
thing. If he isn't in the starting lineup, it's going to be hard to see. It's good for me. It's going to be hard to see him getting consistent minutes off the bench.
Yes, and you can't forget about Terrence Prince, who
Torian Prince.
Torian Prince. If he continues to be valuable at that corner spot in terms of hitting shots, now that adds even more pressure to Jared not being able to score or not being efficient on offense. I don't know if 2 inches will matter at the rim. The only person that I thought struggled at the rim sometimes was LeBron, missing too many layups. Vanderbilt was a little worse, but and I don't understand how someone who's 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", or not, and now 6'10", could be that inefficient at that close to the rim. Other than being mentally blocked, mental fear on doing that. If AI can hit layups over 6'10" and 7-footers in his career, you at 6'10" should be able to hit layups. My hope is that Phil Handy listened to us a few months back when I said they need to run drills where they literally hit you with something while you're trying to get the ball in during layups, so that you can get that training and dealing with contact when you get to the hole. As far going back to your question, I just don't see Rui's contract playing any part in why they're starting him. They're starting him because that at the moment is the best lineup to put in as a starting lineup, because he can shoot, he does have size, and he is a legitimate power forward.
But the thing is, who guards the threes? Who guards the wings? LeBron can't, or he can in moments and spurts, but you really want him doing that during the course of the regular season?
We are in an offensive league. You will probably take the hit on defense a little bit, play good team defense. This is the problem again with AD playing the 5. He's probably going to have to continue to be that shadow or that helper while he's guarding his guy if he's going to be starting at the 5. But you're going to take that negative. You're gonna pick that poison so that you can be consistent on offense and hopefully outscore your opponent during the year.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you joining us. I'm going to have to say right now, Sean, that if you don't play Vanderbilt in the starting lineup, it's really going to be hard for him to stay in the rotation period. I just think he's a fit right now for what you need, because you don't have a Christian Wood that would be even a better fit in the starting lineup. Rui, I think, is still better suited as a 6th man coming off the bench. I think that, he can give you key minutes and actually will probably be in many situations the guy coming down the stretch in that 5 in place of a Vando or a Christian Wood. That would be your ultimate 5 right there. I just think right now you have to start him coming off the bench for each of these games, just to make sure what the feel is when he comes in mid first quarter, late first quarter, early second quarter, whatever you want to go ahead and design. Your thoughts, though, on the conundrum that the Lakers have with Jared Vanderbilt and Rui Hachimura.
Okay. Gerald, before I answer that question, by your logic, then is AD substituted out and then Vando moves to the 5?
Well, that's the thing. The AD, as far as talking about starting with Vando in the starting lineup at the 3.
Yeah. But what I'm asking you is, would you see a situation where
he becomes a small ball 5 for you?
Yes.
We're talking about when AD goes out of the game.
Yes.
Who scores the ball for you? That's the problem. Christian
it's
Wood not
a
being
problem.
there.
It's a problem. That's the problem.
Jackson Hayes doesn't score.
Yeah, no, because you think about all these different permutations about it, and you're right, Gerald. That
Rui Hachimura has to become your scorer. So you're now going to have to you're gonna have to rely on a guy that's only giving you 8 weeks of scoring ability off the bench, something he's not been able to do consistently his entire career. That's a lot to gamble on. But then again, it's the regular season. You're just trying to go ahead and make sure everybody stays healthy throughout.
Yeah, and look, there's really not a good argument against going back to the well of either D'Lo or Gabe at the 1, Austin at the 2. Yeah. LeBron at the 3, Vando at the 4, and AD at the 5, Gerald.
LeBron
Because
should not be guarding wings. He should
he
not be
shouldn't. He
guarding.
shouldn't. But okay, you could switch them then. Like Vando's your 3, and then LeBron's your 4. I mean, either way, Vando needs to be in that lineup. The defensive versatility he offers. Like we went from being the about 18th, 19th best defense before he came in, and then we were number 1 about 4 weeks after he was inserted in the starting lineup, Gerald. So there's a lot of evidence to show that Vando probably should start because, like you said, if Max Christie is able to continue on this trajectory of being a very consistent player, then all of a sudden now you have a true kind of 10-man rotation. Sans that, though, like you said, Gerald, if Vando is coming off the bench, you're relying on Rui Hashimura to be your scorer of the bench mob. And like you said, that's an 8-week resume right now. It's a lot of short-term success, but long-term, there's still a question mark.
Again, it's not a perfect answer, Joe, as well when it concerns Vando because he hurts you on the offensive end because he's not able to score sufficiently or consistently. But defensively, he probably is the best option to guard wings. You could put, like you said, Christie because if he continues to shoot the way he did in summer league, and 6'6", maybe 6'7", you're hoping that. Yeah, between him and Austin Reeves at 6'5" and D'Angelo Russell at 6'5", 6'6" himself. One of those guys will probably have to guard a wing because D'Angelo is not going to be great on the ball defensively himself. So they may pop him over on the 3. I mean, the versatility is there for the Lakers, but it's not 100%. Wow, this is the right answer. You are probably banking on Max Christie to blow up at some point during the season, Joe.
If he does, the Vando does then become expendable.
Yeah.
Because Max Christie has shown that he has a decent lateral defensive stance.
But you can't trade for him much because he's only on a $4 million contract.
There would have to be a package put together. Likely would have to be something with a D'Angelo Russell to get an impact player at that position. See, the Lakers allowed themselves to test every position practically except for the bigger guys. So whomever comes out of the swamp will be the ones they roll with, and those who fail and sink are going to be the ones that they can start looking around and seeing what other talent they can acquire. It's much different than acquiring half a team during last year's trade deadline versus maybe acquiring 1 or 2 guys that could fit in with this title run. The Lakers are in very good position right now to decide that during the season. They don't have to really be in a hurry. If Vando doesn't work out, I have very high confidence that someone else will, whether it's Prince, whether it's Christie. They've set themselves up for enough depth to see which one's going to come out. We're going to know. We're going to know probably within the first 2 months what this team is really going to be at the end of the year. And I don't mind waiting. I know it's hard to wait. We're not a very patient fan base. We're not a very patient society in general. And I'm guilty of that myself. But we have to be patient here because this was systematically put together as good as you could have by Rob Pelinka with the assets and the money available. And they did a hell of a job, at least on paper. If they all fail, still can't blame management. Just going to come down to probably Darvin Ham not being able to put this thing together, as well as players not coming through. Health, although I don't believe that's going to happen. I think that's a very, very small chance of that happening. The only thing that we have to be concerned of, honestly, is the health of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and cross our fingers that they at least can play 65 to 70 games this year.
Magic Man, I wanted to go ahead and before I get to you on the thoughts on who would guard threes and your confidence in that, I want to go ahead. Laker Nick sent over via Lakers Fast Break at yahoo.com his thoughts on who he thinks the rotation as of now should be. D'Lo, but he can be convinced to a starting Gabe Vincent instead. I don't think that'll happen at the start of the season, but who knows if D'Lo gets into a funk. Absolutely, that could be the case. Austin Reeves, LeBron, AD. He says Jackson Hayes. We'll talk about Jackson Hayes again and start about the possibility of him starting at the 5. But Laker Nick thinks Jackson Hayes might be the answer for the Lakers at the 5 starting, because he really wants AD to go to the 4, which we all do because we know that's what he prefers as well. The first off the bench are Vando, Hashimura, and Vincent. And I don't know, again, if Vando is not in the starting lineup, if he's going to be a consistent player for you off the bench because of what he lacks offensively. Other rotational players getting meaningful minutes are Prince and Christie, with Reddish not even being in the equation. And we'll talk about him as well coming up here in a bit. But when it concerns the 3, guarding threes, do you think that if you don't want to put Vando in there, can Rui still, again, because Rui weighs a little bit more than what he started at when he got into this league. He's a lot stronger. And as you saw, we had him guarding Jokic in the playoffs for quite a spell. And it worked for a little bit, and then it started to fade. And obviously, you know what happened from there. But Rui is now probably closer to being a 4-5 than a 3-4.
I think he pretty much is a 4 now. Like
so he's going to have a hard time guarding threes if he's in the starting lineup.
Yes, he will. And not only that, Gerald, if he was a little bit more rangy, that might work. But like you said, he's a big boy, very big.
He's 6'7", 240?
40, yeah. So that's a lot. That's a lot of muscle.
Or 6'8", right there in the
6'8", yeah.
He's built like he is built a little bit, not as defined, but he's built like Karl Malone. Karl Malone was 6'7",
so.
250.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, LeBron is like 6'8", 6'9", 2. Well, at his height, he was like 270.
Rui doesn't look small next to LeBron. That's the whole point here.
Yeah.
What Gerald's trying to make. It's that's a
really
big
hard
guy.
to slip through those screens.
Yeah, that's a big guy to slip through screens and try to guard, rangy, twitchy threes that can go lightning quick from east to west. Gerald, I think that's more of a Jared Vanderbilt job. I just think there's more of a versatility with Vando. Vando can guard a 3 like Brandon Ingram, but again, be as comfortable guarding a 4 like Julius Randle. He can guard a 2 like Devin Booker, but be very or more comfortable guarding a 1 like a John Moran or a Steph Curry. I just think Vando is kind of a Pandora's box in a good way for the Lakers defensively, because he opens up a lot of opportunities elsewhere. And it allows AD to be at his not only most efficient, but also the best version of a teammate, because with Vando being able to guard north, south, east, west with anyone from a 1 to a 4, it allows AD to be very to have like a 30,000 foot view about what's going on and being able to communicate where to be at the right time. He's a very good communicator. And Gerald, I think you're right. Like, more thinking about it, it makes more sense that Vando would be at your 3 and LeBron is your 4 and then AD is your 5. Like, I think that's as comfortable a starting lineup as you can have, because we all know what happened last year. we were like a dead car, like for a lot of those opening 10, 14 minutes, and we needed a jump start just to get going. We need some kind of defensive versatility in the starting lineup, or like Joe said, offensive prowess based upon shooting and spacing. It's one or the other. It's kind of a ride or die situation. You can't half measure either or. You either go full in on defense, or you go full in on offense.
I will say though, Adam has talked about how since Thomas Bryant excelled with LeBron, so will Jackson Hayes. Joe, I kind of disagree because at this point, Jackson Hayes, you pretty much say, despite what Laker Tom hopes and believes and is probably praying at the Lakers altar that he becomes a stretch five, he's essentially a dunker. Thomas Bryant was more than a dunker. He had some ability to stretch out to the five. He was pretty good in the mid range. That's one of the surprising things about Bryant was that he was pretty good in the mid range. And he was able to go ahead and find other ways to score other than what Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes, I believe, once he comes onto the team, he's only going to be expected to be a dunker and nothing more.
It's puzzling to me. Kind of reminds me of Jordan Hill. Someone picked that high in the draft, and you could even argue within a year of being in the league, you would think this guy shouldn't have even been drafted. So I'm kind of puzzled at how someone can be picked 8th overall that has absolutely no skill in terms of being able to be somewhat of a rotational player that could play 20 to 30 minutes when you're picked that high.
Be prepared for next year because next year there's a ton of centers just like that coming up here.
It's just not. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good based off what's been done already or what we've seen and the information that we've gotten from the Pelican fan base. Pelican fan base has said that they were very, very happy that he left. Players that are assets to teams don't just get let go. So it's basketball. It's a little easier to gauge whether someone is effective or not, especially after a year or two.
Well, he says that if he's in the starting lineup, Jackson Hayes would go for 18 and 10.
I appreciate his confidence.
Yeah, I love him. I love his optimism.
The problem is when you have a LeBron offense, you cannot clog the lane. And if AD's not hitting his shots, which he hasn't hit the perimeter shots consistently since 2020, you can sit there and talk about 18 and 10, but the only way you're going to get 18 and 10 is if you're playing 35 minutes a game. He ain't playing 35 minutes a game. And if he's getting 18 and 10, that means they're probably empty stats. It's just, if Jackson Hayes gives us efficient 18 and 10, he's an all-star at that position. I just don't know why you would set yourself up.
That's DeAndre Ayton numbers, basically.
Yeah, you don't. I don't know why you set yourself up for failure that way. Your game doesn't confirm that you have that ability unless it's probably not a title contender and you're playing 35 minutes a game. And the average amount of time he's played is around 23 minutes. I don't see you playing another quarter. That takes a completely different NBA player.
His career, he's averaging 17 minutes a game.
Yeah, I think the highest he had was 23 minutes.
Yeah, I know, 20.
20, was it 20?
Yep, just 20 on the nose. And then his highest scoring ever was 9.3 points.
I don't see it. I'd love to see it though, if I had a choice. But the Lakers are likely going to start the season with their 5 best players starting each game, and they're going to likely ride that should the roster stay the same and see which guy performs. If D'Angelo shows up like he did in the Denver series, you could see some rumblings going on where the Lakers could start shopping him around. My ultimate dream, which is not likely to happen, is let's say Milwaukee is just toast and they want to get rid of some salary. If you put Vando and D'Angelo Russell's contracts together, you can go get Brook Lopez before the trade deadline. I'm just thinking out loud here. I know it's not possible. I think
Milwaukee's probably going to be at the top of the list at the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, but that was just the numbers that I had in my head. $22 million between those two contracts. If those other guys like Gabe Vincent, Prince, and Max Christie come through the way we hope they do, then you got a couple contracts there, a couple of expiring contracts that could be very lucrative to a team that wants to maybe drop some salary, especially at that number.
Once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. We are talking the Lakers starting lineup decisions that will be coming up here in the not too distant future. Magic Man, you heard the thoughts on Jackson Hayes. And before I talk about Cam Reddish or Max Christie one more time, Jackson Hayes, I mean, Adam is very confident in his abilities, and more props to him on that. I still see him as just nothing more than a dunker at this point in time. I've not seen anything to tell me otherwise, no matter how Laker Tom tries to tell you differently. Again, when it comes to Jackson Hayes, I think it's something where he's probably best suited to come off the bench for 10 to 15 minutes a game. And if you ask if he gets you anything more, I think that's a bonus. But your thoughts, though, on Jackson Hayes, this is a thing where the Lakers have consistently tried to find the magic of 2020, where they want to put a dunker in that spot where you have a JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard, depending on the situation. They're trying to replicate that with Drummond. They tried to replicate that with Damian Jones. Are they going to try and do that again and replicate that with, of course, Jackson Hayes?
Yeah, I think they're going to experiment with it for sure. He's got all the similar traits and attributes as those gentlemen you mentioned, Gerald. He's a legit 7 feet. He can get up there. Again, I know Adam said we were, he thought we were a little underestimating him. I don't think so. I think he is who he is. He is a very good pick and roll, screen and roll, cut and roll, lob threat. He goes hard to the rim. He plays hard. He's limited offensively, though. He will never develop a 3-point shot. That's not his game. I wouldn't ask him to.
Tom is believed otherwise. Based
Yes.
off of one season where he shot 57 attempts at 35%.
But Gerald, I mean, we have to look at it. We can't look at everything in a vacuum, right? For every Brook Lopez and Jonas Valanciunas who has a low post game and learns to shoot a 3. I think that would be
the best fit, Valanciunas. He's on an expiring contract, mid-teens. We have a lot of contracts in the teens. That's something that Joe talked about, trading for a center down later in the line as far as the season. He's not an agile big man, but he can get you what if Adam's talking about 18 and 10. This is someone who can give you 18 and 10.
Yes. Jonas Valanciunas is 18 and 10 all day, 28 minutes or more. Absolutely, Gerald. And yeah, he's not the most athletic guy, but you're not going to move him down low. We're not going to have the problems with either giving up multiple possessions on the defensive boards or losing a possession or two because we can't get the 50-50 ball. He's very active. Not only that, he's unselfish as well. Scoring isn't that important to him. He's more about playing his role and doing it well. So I think that was a very apt point by Joe, and I think that's the point why somebody like that hasn't been moved yet either, because teams right now are just sitting back and looking at the landscape and figuring out who's available during a 6-week run at the start here if we're not good or we're struggling, and what can we offer? Because those talks are going on as well, Gerald. I mean, And to answer Kurt's question, I do believe that there's no freeze on an extension. When a player signs an extension, I believe once the contract is signed, then that player is eligible to be traded. There's no freeze on the Damian Lillard situation. He just signed an extension, so I don't think there's any provisions in the CBA that preclude a player being extended and then traded. But getting back to
But
what we
if
were.
they're extended, they may actually push back their date. So I don't
Yes,
know if that I don't know
that's the only
100% on that.
yeah, you're right. That's the only framework that might be a little different, but I don't think there's an actual freeze going on. But getting back to the Hayes situation, Gerald, I think at the beginning of
Unless there's a trade kicker, 15%
oh
trade
god,
kicker
yeah, it's at 70
that they would have
million.
to waive. That's all the thing is if they want to be traded, then they'll waive it. But yeah,
Yeah,
need
the
I
waive it.
digress.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I agree with Nick. I think Hayes is just out of sheer necessity.
So
Um,
you start him at the 5?
yeah, I think you have to. But then again, Joe, what I said was, I think you substitute him out after about 5 or 6 minutes, and you bring Vando in, and AD can slide to the 5. LeBron
Mhm.
goes to the 4. Vando goes to the 3. I think if you're gonna go that way, if Hayes is your starter, Vando and somebody like Gabe Vincent or D'Lo need to be your first two guys off the bench. But you're right. There's so many permutations here, Gerald. It's a lot to think about. There are advantages for Vando being in the starting lineup, but there are advantages for Hayes being in the starting lineup.
Again, it's the situation of where you want to go ahead and pick your poison on the offensive or defensive side. Joe, Mississippi Dog, has brought his lineup and includes AD at the 5 spot, Vando at the 4, and Braun, Reeves, and D'Lo. He says Vando has to start at the 4 because D'Lo doesn't like playing defense. Yeah, we understand he's allergic to playing defense. Regular season, it won't matter as much as it is in the playoffs. I think the playoffs you have to throw something different. Vando can guard the other team's best offensive player 1-4, and we saw during the playoffs it worked and it didn't work when it came to Vando. I mean, he did a great job in certain situations in that first round, especially when it came to Golden State. It started off great and started to fade from there. And then obviously we saw what happened when they figured him out in the Denver series.
Vando to start at the 4 would need to make those shots at the corner.
Mm-hmm.
If not, he doesn't have value other than occasional matchup games where he can play one-on-one against someone he can cover. They're going to get a chance to earn their spot during training camp. If there was ever a show me what you got, or if you saw Bill Belichick's interview yesterday, everything was about all 90 guys are going to be competing. And then the question came back another way, and his answer was all 90 guys are going to be competing. And then someone asked him another question in the same way, and he goes, 90 players are going to compete for to compete. So you could say that in this situation, if you're Darvin Ham, someone will have to earn these spots. I don't see Darvin Ham switching up starting lineups unless there's an injury issue. I think he's going to try to stick to some continuity and play off that. I prefer that as well. Continuity is very important in the NBA. There's a rhythm that starts, and even if there's a mismatch at the beginning of the game, it's still that continuity to guys like LeBron and AD that helps their game more than anything else. And then, of course, will help Austin and guys like D'Angelo, who will need to have that rhythm as well, so we can see how well they can play in areas that they usually struggle in. It's an unknown. The logic tells us what the starting lineup is going to be because that's the easiest lineup to predict because that's what's the skill set say so. But if Vando comes into training camp hitting that corner 3 on a consistent basis, meaning hitting at a 40% clip, there's a very good chance he could start. And it doesn't matter if he's making $4 million plus versus Rui, who's making 18 million. It doesn't matter. You put Rui as a 6, that guy can be a 6-man of the year type player. And I don't mind paying a 6-man of the year candidate $18 million a year. When you have that kind of player doing that kind of work at the 6th position, that means your starting lineup is in good shape. It's going to be us watching and dissecting and figuring out very quickly who's going to be the beginning guys, essentially. Injury is the only thing that's going to stop probably whatever continuity they're going to try to create. And then the next phase is D'Angelo going to play that defense so bad where they're losing games because of it? If that's the case, I don't think putting him on the bench is gonna work. You have to then wait till December 15th and figure out a way to get somebody else. D'Angelo has to be an offensive force. He has to be an offensive force. He has to somehow harness that pick and roll offense a little bit better. He's about a hair off on timing. That's probably what's kept him from being a perennial all-star. He just doesn't have that, quick draw, quick pass, quick bounce pass.
He is basically maximized himself out where we talk about JHS, Joe. JHS has to have a similar. JHS has to progress to where D'Lo has, with the lack of a burst of speed, the lack of athletic ability. That's what JHS has to progress into. Is, I think, the top end of what we see is probably a D'Angelo Russell. If JHS,
the problem with JHS, he doesn't have D'Angelo and never will have D'Angelo's quick release. Yeah. D'Angelo can get the ball up quick. That's probably his best skill in his game, being able to get the ball out quick and going on a run. That I'm trying not to look at the Denver series as the barometer for D'Angelo Russell. I hope that he doesn't get affected by that series, because Denver messed up everyone when they played him.
Well, I see D'Angelo as more as a regular season guy than a playoff guy.
But the problem is he is playing an integral position. We need him in the playoffs. Or if he doesn't play well in the playoffs towards the latter part of it, if we make it deep into the playoffs, we have to have LeBron play LeBron ball, meaning get into the basket during the late time of the game. Mm-hmm. That's what killed us in 2 of those losses that we had in Game 2 in Denver and then Game 4 in LA. LeBron ran out of gas, couldn't get to the basket towards the end of the game. If you watch what he was doing in the first half, he was getting to the basket and being very effective. That is LeBron's, like, if you're going to have a statue of LeBron, it's him going to the hole. That only Michael Jordan did it better. Only Michael Jordan did it better. LeBron is number 2. You could even say 1A. That's what's making him an all-time great. So we need that. Now, if you sit there and you tell me, Joe, D'Angelo's going to play 75 games this year and kill it in the regular season, kill it in the second and first rounds, and then kind of come down to earth in the Western Conference Finals and the finals, cool. That means you have preserved LeBron in that time. And then I'll let LeBron and AD do their thing while they're fresh in those series. And then I'm sure there's going to be a couple guys on the team right now that we have a training camp, now that we're going to have a whole year together, that can come in and maybe be those X factors deep in the playoffs.
Magic Man, I want to ask you this. Mississippi Dog is talking about another thing that might happen is Rui might start at the 4 in order to lower Vando's value for his next contract, which, again, he's at $4 million right now. They don't want to overpay him if he pops this season. I don't see him popping unless he finds some semblance of an offensive game, maybe 10 to 12 points. If he averages 10 to 12 points during the regular season, that means he has improved his offensive game dramatically over what he's done previously. If he can shoot 37% from the corners, 37 to 40% from the corners, that would be tremendous. But if he gives you second or third team all defense out there, as far as from an NBA standard, then you were talking about that. To me is a Vando popping. Don't think we'll ever see Vando become a 20-point scorer in this league. But if he can get you 10 to 12 and become that second team all NBA player on the defensive end, then I think, Sean, we're really talking about that is what I think that Mississippi Dog would probably have to say would be popping for Vando.
Yes, absolutely, Gerald. If even if you got 80% of that from just both of those guys, that would be fairly productive. I think that ultimately Max Christie looked to be a better decision maker, Gerald, and not just a better decision maker. Like there are certain characteristics that come with decision making, and one of them is whether or not you can make quick decisions. Right? Stone Hansen has often talked about that when he's analyzing a player, particularly a guard, as their processing skills. It seems like Christie, when he wanted to shoot, Gerald, in the summer league, he shot. When he wanted to pass, he passed. He wasn't very passive. He was very deliberate in what he was doing, and I think if he does that off the
He was
bench,
very confident in what
yes,
he was doing
yeah.
out there.
Well, that's what it all leads up to, right? That's what makes you a better decision maker is understanding where you need to make improvements. And Gerald, he made improvements across the board on all levels. So I think it's a reasonable expectation to expect that same kind of effort and efficiency when he comes back to training camp, and we see him during the preseason. Because you're right, if he averages 10 to 12 points off the bench, that means a lot of this, what we hoped was working, a lot of it is working.
One thing I want to ask you, though, both you guys, is a long shot on this list. Someone, we talk about if a player pops, but again, the odds are very well against him because this is his fourth team already in such a short period of time, Joe, and that's Cam Reddish. The guy is 6'8". He is someone who is best suited between the 3 and the 4, more likely to the 3. He is someone that is athletic, would be flourishing in theory in a really up-tempo offense, which the Lakers do prefer. Shoots excellently from the free throw line. The one caveat has been his terrible three-point shooting. Your thoughts if he does become a player that can give you at least solid defense from the 3? Could it be even the remote possibility that he could move into that starting 5 at some point in time during the season?
Let's look at the options here. We're looking at Max Christie, Cam Reddish, Torian Prince, Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, and D'Angelo Russell. That's 6 players that are in the unknown position at the moment. D'Angelo, not so much. We kind of know he does have a skill set, but we need him to be almost like a third guy on this team.
We need him to eat up minutes during the regular season. I'm
going to put him as an unknown at the moment. What are we going to get out of D'Angelo? Is he going to ascend this year? Is he going to fulfill his number 2 overall potential on a team where he is desperately needed and a team that's good for his skill set? 6 guys, right? 6 guys out of the 15 that are going to be on this team. Everyone else below that are just guys that are going to be probably redshirting and learning the game, right? And then you have guys like Austin Reeves, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Rui, who are likely solid no matter what. We're confident that they're going to be solid as long as they're playing. So let's say those 6, if 3 come out of that, 3 of those 6 come out and do their job, this is likely a successful team. Whichever one those 3 are, those 3 are. Cam Reddish, I don't.
I mean, if we're talking to Cam Reddish coming out, as a lottery pick,
I wake up at.
that was what you're supposed to be happening. This
I
is
wake
what
up
was
at.
supposed to be happening for him.
I wake up at 5 to 5:30 Intel because I go to spin at 6. I don't always go to spin at 6, but I try to. It's one of those things where I struggle to get there at 6, but as soon as I'm done at 6:45, I'm the happiest guy in the world that I got it done. Cam Reddish. It's very similar to Jackson Hayes. I haven't seen this work.
Yep.
Right? This is not working. However, the difference between Jackson Hayes and Reddish is an attitude here, an attitude problem versus Jackson Hayes having an IQ basketball problem. If Cam Reddish is content on understanding that there's going to be a game where he plays 5 minutes and 20 minutes and he accepts that role, he will be valuable. But that's been the problem. That's been the problem, and he's going to be held to a higher standard even more. I know that's kind of hard to say when you have Tom Thibodeau as a coach and playing in New York, but this is LeBron James. This is the LA Lakers. I believe the Knicks are highly overrated when it comes to that kind of aura. The Knicks haven't won diddly poo in half a century, so I don't really buy all that. But I will give credit to Tom Thibodeau. He is one of those old school coaches that's still able to be productive with these pile of pansies in the NBA in this era. But he's going to be held accountable, and it'll pop quick. It'll pop quick. If Cam brings his previous attitude to the team, it'll pop quick, and you'll know right away this guy ain't going to work. And he's toast after that. He might as well go get ready to go play in Europe with John Wall. So it's any of these guys working out is going to help, especially at the salaries they're getting, most of them. And I believe out of the 6-7 guys that are going to prove something, let's see if we can get 3 out of those 6-7 guys. I think it becomes very, very, very advantageous for the Lakers for the season.
Once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. We are talking about who should be in the starting 5. As of now, of course, we haven't been through camp. We haven't seen if Christian Wood will sign. Well, still some variables left, but as of now, who we think should be in the starting 5. Magic Man, again, it's a long shot. And I just threw Cam Reddish in there because if someone you have is an athletic 6'8" forward who theoretically prefers guarding the threes, who is athletic, can go ahead and be very profitable for you in as far as if he plays consistently out on the break in an up-tempo offense, hits anywhere from 80 to 85% on free throws. Looks great there, but then you get into the real particulars regards three-point shooting and so defense. Again, Joe has talked about what I essentially agree upon as the reasons why he's now on his 4th stop in such an early career here in the NBA. But your thoughts on the long shot for a starting lineup try for Cam Reddish? If he has a good camp, who knows?
Yeah, who knows is right, Jill. You never know. As unrealistic as it sounds now, there may be a world somehow where Cam Reddish and Jared Vanderbilt find themselves on the floor together, being menacing defenders on the perimeter. You just never know. It's possible. Unlikely, but possible. I think Reddish has a lot of work to do to climb up the depth chart, Gerald, sans an injury, barring an injury. Like you said, the jump shot, defense, 75, 80% of the time, he's not a terrible locker room guy by all accounts. He's, pretty good. But again, the idea that, this is your 4th team, been in the league less than 8 years now, You can't seem to find your foothold in any spot for any kind of role
He's just
in any
23.
in any kind of significant way. And this is really hard to watch a player with these kind of physical gifts not being able to put it all together, Gerald. But I mean, he's probably I would say, Gerald, he benefited the most from the most ideal situation he was ever put in, right? Because he was surrounded by RJ Barrett, um, Tyus Jones, Zion Williamson. He was surrounded by, again, one, two, three lottery picks there. I think he also benefited from having a great coach who is good with massaging NBA executives about some of his guys. And of course, I mean, the former Duke coach, Mike Krzyzewski, who uh, who knew how to massage egos in the NBA for his guys. And I think he did a really good job with Reddish because, Gerald, the proof is in the pudding. He's not what he was promised on draft day by all those analysts. It hasn't come to fruition. And again, I think he's got to jump a few guys to get in any kind of position where he has an impact. He's got to get past Jared Vanderbilt. He's got to get past Rui Hashimura. He's got to get past Torian Prince, who's going to be given more of an opportunity than him. I just think there are too many guys for him to try and overtake to have that kind of impact. But like you said, Gerald, barring an injury or some kind of some kind of miraculous camp where he's shooting 50% from three and is finishing in the lane, he's not going to see a lot of minutes. It's going to be, like you said, Gerald, 10 to 15 minutes at the most. And if you're getting any more than that, there's either an injury problem during a game or during a stretch of games, and or we're missing somebody for a significant amount of time. And
Or
Darvin
he's
Ham
popped
again,
beyond all
all
expectations.
expectations, which
Yeah.
could happen too. That's a possibility as well.
We saw it with Rui.
Yeah, I mean that happened. So
What
I
would be the
mean,
odds, though, Joe and Sean, if Rui and, of course, Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes all pop on the Lakers as those 8th, ninth, and 10th picks? What would be the odds of that? How
It's very
ironic would that
low,
be?
yeah,
but I'll tell you what. The thing with Rui is I don't know if that's a good comparison. Rui's never had an attitude or a basketball IQ issue. I think fit in Washington just didn't work.
Well, consistency was his big thing.
Consistency is hard when you're. I always kind of give a player a benefit of the doubt when you're on a team that's constantly losing. I mean, the Washington Wizards have gone into the second round once in the last 30 years, maybe even more, probably since the 79
Championship team.
championship. So it's the Reddish issue is different. It's not. I can't compare it to Rui. Reddish has an attitude problem. If it adjusts in LA, he will play well. He does have the skills, as long as he finishes whatever ego he's had in Atlanta, Portland, and in New York. Jackson Hayes, 10, 12 minutes, couple block shots. That's a win. That's a win. Don't expect him to be anything else other than that. I'll be very happy with that. And then, of course, if Rui continues his great play and from the playoffs, then we have the 8, 9, and 10 players doing exactly what we were hoping for them to do. Although when you're an 8, 9, 10 pick, I would assume that you'd probably be an integral part of a team in that you're at least a 2 or 3, star on a winning team.
It's just so crazy, Joe. We have all these 3 guys that are all 23, 24, and they're all on the team. from the same draft, and we
especially
didn't draft anyone of them.
especially considering that 8th pick was the pick that we sent for in the Anthony Davis trade that went via Atlanta from New Orleans. So not only did we won the trade at 100% in 2020. Actually, no, we won that trade 100% in the summer of 2019. It went up to 120% when we won the title a year later. And then it went to 150% after this year when they couldn't get the switch, a higher pick. And then it went to 200 when with an insult by getting the 8th pick of a pick that we gave to them in the Anthony Davis trade. It's quite sad looking at it from an outside perspective, but that's always the case, and it would take it to 300% if Jackson Hayes is a big part of a Laker championship run. Yeah, it's this. You can't really write this. It's the unfair part of life, unfair part of what the Lakers have done to this league since 1949. The Lakers are the baddest NBA team that's ever lived. Sorry, Boston. You had a nice run in the 50s and 60s in terms of longevity. But after that, you have Larry Bird, and I know Havlicek and Dave Cowens won in 74 and 76. But you guys don't hold a candle to the Lakers the last half century. And I'm not going to go look into what basketball was before 1973. I think 50 years is a pretty darn good window. Lakers have won 5 championships in the 80s, 1 in the 70s, and won 6 championships at the turn of the century. You're talking about 12 championships in 51 years versus, let's say, the Celtics have won 6, which is not bad, but double the championships in 50 years. I'd say the Lakers are way above anyone in the NBA, and we're one step away from taking over the overall spot, which is the motivation. If I'm Jeannie and Rob and anyone that's a Laker fan base, we want 18. We want 18 really bad. Will we relax after 18? Yes, we will. Still want 19 and 20. But we get 18 and have the green turds sitting where they belong, below us. That's a heck of an accomplishment in our lifetime, guys, as Laker fans, especially after where we were when I was born. Ironically, same year the Washington Wizards won their title, right? It's been 45 years. At that time, the Lakers were sitting at 6 titles to the Celtics 13. So they're almost took them 45 years to have a shot here at passing them, and that's how it be 45 years later.
So I ask you, Sean, the name that we haven't talked about in all these equations. We've talked about the long shots for the starting lineup. We've talked about the more sure things as a possibility for the starting lineups. The one name that we haven't talked about in all these equations that should be somewhere, we think, in the top 12 as far as the rotation is concerned, is Taurean Prince. Taurean Prince, again, is a player who, again, shoots about 38%, 37% from behind the arc, shoots about 84% from the free throw line for the past few years. Someone still in his 28, 29 season, still in the prime of his career, but he did get waived as opposed to being paid $10 million. The Lakers signed him on a $4.5 million deal, but he did get waived by Minnesota Timberwolves, who is supposed to be a team right in the thick of things in the Western Conference. I actually kind of like what they have, and I think if they're going to get it together, it's going to be this year. Otherwise, you can pretty much say that's going to be a disaster after the Rudy Gobert trade. But getting back to Taurean Prince, why are we not talking about Taurean Prince as a possibility for the starting lineup?
Yeah, you know what, Gerald? I think the one hole in his game that's going to hold him back from being a starter is that he is not a 3 and D. He is a volume 3-point shooter off the
Mhm.
bench that can play very good team defense within a team concept. He's not
Because he hasn't
somebody.
started regularly since
No,
before the pandemic, just to give you an
no.
idea.
Yeah, no, he is not. He is not a Trevor Ariza or a Tony Allen where you can put him on the best defender and say, sick him all game long.
And
He's
he
not
has aged from a small forward position to a
to
power
a
forward
forward
position.
position. That's right, Gerald. Yeah, that's another. Unfortunately, that's another tweener that the Lakers have picked up. That's not a tweener. A
Yeah.
tweener that's not a tweener. Similar to Rui, you have. Yeah, he's listed as a 3-4, but he's really more of a 4.
Yeah.
I think he again. We talked about his role. I think he's going to fit his role fine. I would say this: Minnesota bet on him in the short term. I think if the Lakers get any kind of Torian Prince from 21-22 for this contract, Laker fans will be very, very happy with the results because that was a very good season for him.
Was
He
it?
was from three. It was.
He was shooting 37% there. His best season was actually 2021 when he shot 41% in 29 games for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Hmm. When his success came from being surrounded by good team defenders, whether it was McDaniels or Beverly. They seem to like putting Torian Prince around those two guys in particular, just based upon his ability to stretch the floor as a volume shooter drill and being able to play that feisty team defense within a concept. Again, you wouldn't ask Torian Prince to go on an island and defend his butt off because that's just not what he can do. Minnesota asked him to do that a lot last year, and he wasn't very good at it. He was good at it the year before, and as Gerald said, the year before that when he shot 41%, he wasn't asked to be a lockdown 3 and D defender. He was asked to uh, do your best to make your threes when you're open and play the best kind of defense you know how and what we want you to within your role within the team. Uh, I I just don't think you can ask a guy who's doing that off the bench to come in and be a starter, Gerald. That's the only thing really holding him back because he's pretty steady outside of that.
Absolutely. I just don't know what he could give to you if he's in the starting lineup at this point in time in his career. Back when he was playing at Atlanta in the earlier start of his career, he could get away with being at the small forward, and he was actually shooting and part of the offense well enough where it could get you on by. But at this point in his career, if he gets you consistent minutes off the bench, that's what I would be surprised at. I think, Joe, when it comes to Torian Prince, I think that Torian Prince, he's on the still in his prime, but the way that his career has folded, it's not looking like he's going to play a major role on the team this season, unless there's injuries that come into play.
Yeah, Torian Prince was let go by the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's not a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Uh,
I
Go ahead.
but
You're back. Go ahead.
okay.
go ahead, Sean.
So Intel said that on chessboard, uh, he sees AD as being a queen. Does everybody understand what the queen is? The queen's the get French toast done piece. It's not the king that gets French toast stuff done on the chessboard. It's the queen. The queen runs the board. Yeah, you protect the king, but the queen is the brains behind the operation. Intel, great analogy. Go
There you
on, Joe.
go. So Torian Prince again, the way his career is folding out, if you look at it, and it could be a point where he is probably either going to be someone that comes off the bench as your 7th, 8th guy, or maybe not getting any minutes at all, Joe?
It's going to be a free for all. It's going to be lineup changes. It's going to be lineup setups during training camp, during preseason games. This is one of those seasons where I wish we had 7 preseason games so we could really get a couple more games in to see which lineup would work. These guys are gonna compete for positions, compete for consistent minutes. There's plenty of guys that can be thrown in to see who's going to be valued. I won't be surprised if who might not make it, and I won't be surprised if those who do make it. Everyone has a skill set that could work. Everyone has shown something that would work. It's just a matter of, can they do it under pressure? Can they do it under the lights of the crypt? Can they do it with LeBron on their neck, AD on their neck, Laker management on their neck? The pressure of playing as an LA Laker is immense. Who's going to be the Trevor Ariza of this group is the question I have in my head. Because that's another guy that wasn't working out in Orlando before Mitch, his second best trade of his career. Well, actually, I'm sorry, the third best. He got screwed on the Chris Paul one. But the Trevor Ariza trade set the table for the 2009 run and absolutely killed it in the playoffs and was a huge part in why the Lakers won the championship and was the third guy for sure, even above Andrew Bynum in 2009. That's what we need, guys. We need a Trevor Ariza type out of this group. And
he was a killer in that Orlando series.
Yes, and at 6 and 7, the 6 and 7 players that can be those guys, I'd like to think at least 1 or 2 of those guys can be that.
One thing I do want to ask all these chess vernaculars here in our chat. The world's best chat room for Lakers. It is the Lakers Fast Break. Sean, before I talk about, of course, Wilt Chamberlain, before we head on out, and of course, give Joe some time for his thoughts as requested earlier in the show. I did not forget that. I want to go ahead and give some credit to Serge for the Queen analogy. I believe he does deserve it. So I think it was either, we'll give shared credit. How about that? But I think Serge did come up with it first. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts, though, Taurean Prince, again, $4.5 million. This is in that slot which you have had varying levels of success over the past 3 seasons, 4 seasons now, as far as in that mid slot right there, the one that's as far as the mid-level exception that the Lakers, or excuse me, that second level exception. I mean, we saw it with Malik Monk, where it was really good. Lonnie Walker, you got declining returns. To be quite honest with you, started out great. Then kind of nothing afterwards when he got injured, came back, found the pine, and did come back for a couple games in the playoffs, as we all remember. It gave you something there. But overall, it was like diminishing returns. There's other players that we could talk about. Kendrick Nunn, we know what a disaster that was for us there on that type of slot. What is your envisioning of where Taurean Prince is? Because he does fill that slot right around Jared Vanderbilt money, $4.5 million. Your thoughts on what he will be? Will he be more of the Kendrick Nunn, or will he be more of the Malik Monk for us this season?
That's a great dichotomy there, Gerald. I mean, it's basically choosing between Cristal and I don't know which terrible champagne, Gerald. I would know, but yeah, bad champagne. I would say I'm gonna bet on Taurean Prince's previous stock, like his actual cap hold. I think it's a good stock. I think it's gonna go up. And I think it'll be more likely that he's on a more Monk incline than a decline.
Okay. All right.
But I'll also say this. I think that obviously it was pressing upon Rob to offer Torian Prince the BAE. And just think about it, guys. If Rob Pelinka thought that Christian Wood was a better option, and he would have offered him the BAE, but he didn't, or at least we don't know that he did. So uh, that also needs to be kept in mind as well, Joe. That Torian Prince wasn't going to stay on the market for long, and I think he's a better piece to try and fit into the puzzle that we have than a Christian Wood would be.
Okay. Well, there you go. Indeed, those are our thoughts on the possibilities that the Lakers have. There's no perfect fit from what I'm seeing, Joe and Sean, as far as the starting lineup right now is concerned. Even if we got Christian Wood, obviously he does come with a little bit of baggage, the attitude issues and the defensive inefficiencies there. But I do think he would be the best of all these options, slotting him in at the 5 right now. But again, we'll wait and see. Before we head on out, and of course, Brian is putting in there the final as far as thank you, Brian, for new face there. Truly appreciate you watching and listening here right here with the Lakers Fast Break. Be sure to subscribe to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Lakers Fast Break. He's suggesting the Lakers stop BSing it and go with 2 bigs and put AD at the power forward, because we know, Joe, AD wants to be at the 4. But the problem is, do the Lakers have a 5 that will thrive right now to go ahead and allow AD to be at the 4 full time? And is that good? Is that good even good because LeBron would be at the 3?
Not this year, unfortunately. No, we don't have. Jackson Hayes is not a starting center, and AD is too valuable on the defensive end.
And LeBron is 3 years older.
It's easy to diagnose that if we had LeBron of 2020 in this year's Western Conference Finals, we win. We win it all. Yeah. Therefore, we need to have everyone around LeBron play at a top-notch level so that he can maintain enough energy to finish the season. We also have to understand that the Lakers for 4 months last year were battling to stay in, even just in the play-in. So there's a lot to really look back on and say, this is not going to happen, this is not going to happen, and this is not going to happen. None of this stuff is going to happen that happened the last 18 months before the trade deadline. We had a devastated chemistry. We had a crappy locker room. We had a crappy team in terms of trying to win. We had injuries that were compounded by the fact that we were not winning and didn't have chemistry and had a crappy locker room. We're not going to have any of that now. A lot of it could be mental too. Tired, burnt out, mentally can affect you physically. And on top of the fact that you have a couple of ailments, because you can't go into even this coming year and say LeBron and AD aren't going to be physically hurt. They're going to be hurt, but the mental part added to it, it compounded it. This year, we're not going to have to deal with it. We're going to have continuity because these guys are going to start at training camp. They're going to learn together early, and they already have a little bit of playing time that was very effective this last season. So we continue that. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, no, Joe, you're making a lot of great points here, and I think one thing needs to be clear is that the Lakers are going to play a variety of different styles over the course of the year. They're going to have to. You're going to have to adapt. On top of that, you have a number of players here: D'Angelo Russell, Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves. All right, those 3 in particular, who can run pick and roll offenses. One of the it's a blessing in disguise for the man. I'm going to say it. That foot injury he suffered in Dallas, it was a blessing in disguise for him because he couldn't play at his optimal level that he wanted to in the playoffs. You could just tell, but he had to defer. And one of the players he deferred to the most, who got the most of his pie, was Austin Reeves. Now, LeBron James wouldn't have deferred to Austin Reeves regardless of whether he was hurt or not if he didn't think he was proficient enough to do it, and he did. So I, for one, am not particularly that concerned about LeBron's um, energy reserves come playoff time because I think you have enough depth at certain skilled positions and certain positionless styles that you could save those energy reserves. But Joe's right. Anthony Davis is the concern here. You need to find minutes for him where he's not being beat up at the 5. It's not uh, optimal for anybody.
But Brian has a good point. Is that it's really hard for him to go switch to the 4 as far as predominant when the guy who's aged into a 4 in LeBron plays a predominant amount of minutes there. I mean, that's actually was a good question and a good point that he made up. Is that LeBron when he was here, when he first started, when AD first came to the team and LeBron was here, LeBron was playing the 3 and was more capable playing the 3 at that point in time.
He was, but that was a long time ago.
So now
really
he plays
was.
the 4. So it's really hard to go ahead and put AD at the 4 predominant amount of the time if there's LeBron James sitting at the 4.
Yes, that's an issue. That's an issue. So I think you have to find a balance there. And I think at times, Gerald, I think during the regular season, it's just I think Ham's going to put out lineups that are going to frustrate the hell out of people. Z with the 3-guard lineup.
Shout out to Zangerstein.
Yes, shout out to Z. Hopefully we see her back soon. But yeah,
she's
Gerald,
probably reading because she said that's what she does in the summer.
Yes, summer. Yes, that's right. But yeah, Gerald, you're right. He's going to pull people's hair out again, just based on. I think a lot of it's just going to be experimentation, figuring out. Okay, so AD keeps telling me he doesn't want to play the 5, but
Brian says he's undersized at the 4. Is he really undersized? He's 6'8", 6'9", 250, 260. We've talked about that earlier in the show. Is that really undersized for 4?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Wes Unseld.
Just around where you
Wes
need to be.
Wes Unseld was 6'7". He played the power
forward.
Well,
in today's NBA.
Well, sure, yeah. No, I think he can. Yeah, I think he's a 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's a 4.
Well, he has to be a 4 at this point because he can no longer really guard 3s for consistently long stretches. He's not going to.
You can ask him to do it, possession here or there. That's definitely where he could be a hound dog for sure.
6'9", 260 is pretty good for a 4.
Yeah, well, and Gerald, if Cam
or 250 or where in that range.
If Cam Reddish and or Vando are making corner 3s, then you got a lot of versatility there, and you can definitely. Of course, it's a big if. That's a big if out there. But I expect. I'm with Joe. I think at least 2 out of 3 players Rob signed will do very well this year, and I think. One of the 2 guys we picked up on the vet min will have a similar impact. But again, if one of those 2 guys is consistent from 3, you can kind of get away with playing LeBron at the 4 because, I mean, Reddish hitting 3s, Vando hitting 3s. You could basically, if that's the case, in some lineups, you can have Austin Reeves at the point guard, Cam Reddish at your 2, Vando's your 3, LeBron's your 4, possibly Rui is a small ball 5. I mean, Gerald, if some guys are really hot, again, we may see like different lineups and options we just didn't think about.
Once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you being part of what we're doing here at the Lakers Fast Break community. Best Lakers chat room that's out there is the Lakers Fast Break. If you have any questions for us, put it down below in the comments, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, or go ahead and hit us up, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. So I'll ask you guys one last time before we send it over to Joe, and then I end the show with Wilt Chamberlain, the great himself. Your thoughts, Joe, one last time. You've had some time to think about it after your initial thoughts. If you had to go ahead and nail down a starting five as of now, Joe, I will go ahead and put you off mute. Who would the, oh, you did. Who would that be?
I'm going to go D'Angelo, Austin, LeBron, Rui, and Anthony Davis.
Okay. Sean, your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what, Gerald? D'Lo at the 1, Austin Reeves at the 2, Vando at the 3, LeBron at the 4, AD at the 5.
As much as I would like to have AD not at the 5, it looks like more and more that he, like after what Brian is pointing out, as far as from a common sense standpoint, that LeBron has to be more of the 4 right there. So I think that lineup that I'm going to probably lean into more Sean. I really do not want to put Rui in the starting lineup if I don't have to. Not it's a as far as differential to him. I just think he's so much of a better fit coming off the bench. Playing against second team units, I think he could thrive in that as far as playing mostly on there. And then if he's really playing well, for the most part, and he plays like what he did or anywhere near what he played in the playoffs, you have him in crunch time as your guy coming down the stretch. So you have him there. But I do have as well, like you, Sean, Vando in my starting lineup. So I have D'Lo and also Austin Reeves. Although D'Lo has to go ahead and be a consistent NBA starter and play for you and chew up a lot of minutes during the course of the regular season. Otherwise, Gabe Vincent may be an option there. And then you go Vando for his defensive capabilities and the fact that he can guard wings. And like it was mentioned, he can guard players 1 through 4. You have LeBron and you have AD. I think that if you don't start Vando, he could get buried on the bench, and that could be a problem for you there. But we'll wait and see. Those are our thoughts right now. Could that be subject to change if Christian Wood or something else happens as far as joining the team in training camp or an exhibition season? We'll let you know. We'll give you our thoughts as they get updated throughout the playoffs. Yes, Magic.
Gerald, before we head out, just best wishes to Montrezl Harrell, former Laker. Unfortunately, tore his ACL today.
Off season workouts. I
Yeah.
read that. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But they've got Mo Bamba in Philadelphia, so they're safe. Just saying.
Get ready for Mo Bamba, Philly.
Absolutely.
You never thought you needed Mo Bamba. If you thought they booed Santa Claus, ladies and gentlemen, you ain't seen nothing till you see Mo Bamba.
Theory of Mo Bamba indeed is better than the Mo Bamba in practice. Unfortunately, that's what his career has been there out so far. But Joe, I told you I would give you some time to go ahead for thoughts from Joe Soro. I know that was mentioned earlier this week, earlier this hour, earlier this show, in regards to people looking forward to that. So,
what was the subject that you guys needed me to talk about? I think that's the only thing I need to know. What exactly did you want to know?
Well, I think that they were talking about, I don't know what it was talking about. Life lessons with Joe is what I think is.
What are the life lessons you want me to rant about?
Didn't you say you were going to talk about something as far as missing something or regretting something? You said this morning in the email, you said you were going to talking about regretting something or missing something.
Oh, good.
There were 75 emails we sent today.
No, now I know. Okay. So I talked to Sean about this too on the phone earlier today. There was when you talk about those who don't commit to a time, commit to their word. I had an instance 10, 12 years ago where I had an opportunity to meet with representation in the entertainment world. And I thought it was a good idea to sabotage myself by trying to adjust the day and time that I had committed to. And it was a terrible decision, to the point where the person I was supposed to meet said, I don't want you to come ever. I already know where your head is. And it still follows me to this day. Anytime I've made a commitment to an appointment that could change my trajectory, I'm not talking about, a dentist appointment, nothing like that. I'm talking if it's a meeting that involves progression in some kind of business or personal situation, I always think of that moment and I commit to it no matter what, unless, of course, there was some injury or a car or whatever, which doesn't happen, by the way. And it's never left me. It's never left me. I don't know what opportunity I might have missed when I did that. So if I had to give anyone a life lesson, don't be a flake. It sets the stage for failure. And then those same people who do those things are so narcissistic in their confusion that they will still blame others for their failures. Don't not commit. Be committed and be communicative. That's my rant and my thoughts of the day.
Intel Wild's asking though, how do you pick the right woman?
Oh, oof.
This could take a long while. This
Oh
could put us
boy,
over 2 hours.
how do you pick the right woman? Well, I'm not. I'm not ashamed to say that I'm very hard to live with, because I demand a lot. I demand this to work. So when you're trying to pick the right woman, you have to also understand that you might not find them. I have 2 friends of mine who would be good husbands, but are smart enough to know that they aren't going to settle, and they haven't, and they're my age, and sometimes that happens. Now, in my case, I found the right combination in that my wife is patient and nice. I'm not patient and not nice. A lot of marriages, people who have things in common still work, and also opposites do attract. Go ahead, Sean. You've been itching to say something here for the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's just like, look, there are 4 things men require: fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative. You have all those 4 qualities, you can work on stuff together.
Agreed. Looks matters. Sorry, folks, if that bothers you, you can eat it. Looks matter. You want to be attracted to your wife.
You have to be physically fit for your partner.
You
Yes.
need to be attractive. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it goes. Sorry. And and you have to reciprocate too. You can't be some slob, sitting on the couch with your, looking like a piece of, what. No. Whatever I say that I'm expecting my wife to be, I'm also trying to be that as well. Considerate, taking care of myself, having pride in things. But the big thing here, and this is coming from someone who's had a very weird year, in that I have 3 friends that are now in the process of divorce, is you cannot settle. Now, my guys didn't settle, but I saw the writing a little bit, but I had to roll with it because I didn't want to be that guy, right? There's sometimes where you do have to people, they have their own lives. You got to let it, that's their choice. I don't get into that kind of stuff, too intimately. But, it's not a surprise. Let's just put it that way. None of the divorces are a surprise. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that if your spouse is not committed to being involved in the marriage, what's being involved, understanding that there's a financial thing, understanding there's an emotional thing, understanding there's a responsibility thing. Now, I'm a little more old school when it comes to marriage. I would have never got married if I wasn't wanting children. I believe marriage is for children. Marriage is the foundation of raising children the correct way. And more than that is you got to pick the right woman to be a good mother. And Some of the guys that I've known, their women are not good mothers. They're pretty bad, actually. And you have a woman who's, and my wife is, my kids are obsessed with their mother, and that to me is the ultimate validation. I picked the right woman based off of more than anything than even me, is that the fact that my children would just not work well without their mother. So if you don't have, you have this courtship moment in figuring out if she's the right one. Take as much time as you had. I didn't marry my wife until 10 years later because I met her young. And there was pressure. There was societal pressure from family. What's going on here, Joe? Well, I made it very clear when I was approached with it after a while. And, you know, I didn't mind it too much. But I told them, I said, guys, I'm not in a position to support a wife. And my definition of a marriage is children. Not immediately after that. We waited a couple of years. We wanted to be married a little bit. But marriage is for children. Marriage needs a home. Marriage needs stability. And that it all systematically came together that way. And then everyone understood what I was doing. So, because you don't mess with children's up, you know, bringing up children is if that's what you are setting out to do, that the roots need to be put down the right way. There needs to be the right soil, everything. So finding the right woman, got to make sure that she understands you, understands your things, and accepts them, and you accept hers. And then, of course, is she going to be a good mother if you plan on having children? Those are the things that matter to me, and I've been happily married for 15 years. Bad news is, guys, you might not find her, though. Just like a quarterback who doesn't win a Super Bowl, no matter how good he is. Dan Marino, Phillip Rivers, Y.A. Tittle, although he was still playing when they were playing for NFL titles. You might not find her. Don't settle. You just will have to be alone. Sorry. It's a lot better being alone and lonely than dealing with someone like my friends are dealing with right now in their situation.
And Samir, not only note Celtics fans, you couldn't pay me to be with a Celtics fan during hot yoga.
Okay.
Because
hot yoga is the
with
thing
that
on this
accent.
show.
With that accent, no, thank you.
If you want to do something
Welcome
that's
to
a
the
little
harbor. Welcome to the harbor. Yeah,
if,
thank you.
If you want to have something that gives you that hot yoga feel, meaning the heat and the
Good
sweat,
one, Search.
but still have a little bit more activity, just do spin for 45 minutes, and you will sweat gallons of sweat and actually feel productive after 45 minutes. And what it does also is if you're not a sedentary guy, sitting around doing nothing, actually working in the yard or, physically working at work, you'll find yourself sweating nonstop there too. Because it ignites that perspiration.
Search and Destroy has a new advertising slogan for you, Joe, for Sin Blades to put on Sin Blades with the Y.com. Your marriage might be bad, but you can have some nice landscaping, and you can do that today at sinblades with the Y.com.
I can't tell you how beneficial having good landscaping is
for marriage.
For home. It's like putting on a suit.
Gerald with the line of the night.
It's an identifier, guys. It's an identifier. Think about it. You come to a home and you see the lawn immaculate. You're telling me that house isn't set up the right way? Just saying. There's always the exceptions.
You need Sin Blades.
There's always the exceptions. There's always the exceptions, but what it does is it shows you who's lazy. Like, I can show you the house across the street from me, new owners for the last 4 or 5 months. Their place is a disaster. Your lawn tells people a lot about who you are, just like how clean you keep your car, your vehicle. If your vehicle's always dirty, you're likely dirty. Your garage, is it dirty?
Is that what we do now? We just walk by people's cars, see junk in front of on their front seat, and we just judge them. What a pig!
The judging part is see, society is telling you. Society is telling you you're judging them. I'm assessing your habits. That's what I'm doing. I'm assessing your habits. Someone asked, what time do I get up in the morning, right? And getting up in the morning is the society has said, you got to be next level, get up in the morning and be the guy. And you're going to attack the day. Man, fuck you. That's nothing to do with that. Your body as a human being functions better when you sleep early and you wake up early. That's why it's good. Not this, I'm empowering myself to get up in the morning and go after everything. And no. Just do it yourself. When I sleep at 9:30, I sleep at like 11:30, not 12 o'clock. Just because I'm a night guy and I'm a Laker fan. Lakers games finish at 10:15. My whole adult life is what it is. And then I used to watch SportsCenter after that before it went to crap. So, but your body is immensely enhanced when you sleep early and you wake up early and not on a clock. This isn't me creating this. This is just human beings, right? So if you constantly need to be motivated and tell yourself you need to do something, I think at some point that's going to wear out. You need to just be about it. Be about it. Clean your damn car. It's a good image enhancer.
That's what I did the other day. Absolutely.
You don't have to clean it.
Rained again.
You don't have to clean it
enough to make it dirty on the.
By the way, man, all of Temecula after that little rain turned everyone's car into garbage.
Yeah, absolutely.
My
same
God.
Here in Vegas. We get rain for like 10 minutes, and that's it.
It was terrible. I just happened to have parked.
And I have a black car.
Yeah, me too. I had parked the car. Usually I go in the garage. I had parked the car outside because I had stuff in the driveway that I was measuring with turf. And within that small amount of time where it sprinkled, it turned everything into dust brown dimples. I was like, damn, I got to get to the car wash. And I ended up getting it cleaned today. And it is what it is, guys. You gotta put in the work. You gotta put in the work. You gotta discipline. Just think of it as discipline.
If you get one of those car wash memberships and you use it like for 1 month, like 14 times, but then here in Vegas, there's going to be a point where there's 3-4 months where you don't need it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
no, that's a good point, Gerald. I did have a monthly one, and the reason why I canceled it was because of the principle of the matter. They raised the number without telling me. When you don't tell me you're raising the price, I cancel you right off the bat. That's bad communication. Bad communication means you're not running your business well. I don't go into a job and say, oh, by the way, I know I quoted you, X amount of dollars, but now it's going to be this. That's just bad business and bad communication. And you don't deserve to be in business at that point. And you don't deserve my service or my money. But a lot of it is preventative too, especially inside the vehicle. If you're not a slob and eating fast food in there and stuff, usually you're okay. I do have a lot of samples and things, paperwork type stuff that sometimes will accumulate in there, but I could literally spend 2 minutes in my truck and have it cleaned. Just putting those in a better position.
I have 2 teenagers that sit in the back every day, and I'll just leave it at that. So it gives me a lot of work. That's to say,
kids in the back seats. I mean, I remember when the girls were growing up, there was every cracker known to man in every crevice, and I would talk to my wife. I'm like, what are you guys doing over here? Are you guys confettiing everything when you're eating? Like eating one and then just throwing everything in the air? Like, what are you guys doing over here? Like, stop eating crackers in the back. Oh, I got to eat. No. I'm like, well, it stinks back here. You're going to have to clean it at least once a week.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, again, when it comes to those short rainfalls, they're like for dark colored vehicles, they're a pain in the butt indeed. But once again, as the Lakers fast break, there's some life advice for you from Joe Soro, aka Ox1947. You can find more life advice and his thoughts on the Lakers at LakersBall.com. Plus, again, to save your marriage, if you live in the Southern California area, please, to save your marriage, get a better line. And you can get a better lawn today at Simblades, Simblades with a Y.com.
I would say maintain the marriage.
Okay, maintain the marriage. Okay, there you go. And
I
of
think
course,
that's more of that part is more of showing the public that things are good at the house. I think we're going a little overboard on that one on saving the marriage. I think if you've got to put a lawn in your a functioning lawn in front of your house to save your marriage, you're probably not going to save your marriage by putting a lawn in.
Sure, indeed. But also here today, Magic Man Sean Grice doing a great job trying to coordinate with me some of the upcoming NBA profiles. It starts tomorrow, which Joe will not be here for. He's already indicated. It will be a good guest that came by earlier last month, Stephen Bagel. He is coming. He's at the Birds Rights podcast, if you remember.
I will be here tomorrow. It's Friday. I won't be
Okay.
here.
Oh, that's right. Thursday, Friday. Yeah, so that's what
Yeah, I thought today was Thursday too.
That's right.
I've been
Oh, that's right.
confused.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So he'll be here Friday. Friday at 5 starts our NBA previews. It is Stephen Bagel from doing the Philadelphia 76ers. He's from the Birds Rights podcast. We also have 3 confirmed so far for next week. And over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to be giving you those NBA profiles. Our goal is to do profiles on every single NBA team, Magic. We're starting with the Eastern Conference first because I figured that was the more difficult of the two. So to get everybody together. So we're trying to go ahead and reach out. I've reached out to 15 representatives already. So looking forward to seeing if we can get that in place. But yeah, my friend, Magic Man, we've already got a few in place already.
A few more. I'm also hoping to get our old pal Gage Bridgeford back for part 2, and he can go over what he thinks is going on with the Denver Nuggets this upcoming season, and maybe a little NFL talk with him.
If you can't get him, I got Denver Nuggets fans I can get. Cool McCain, who's been on the show before. He's done a great job in the past. There's other individuals, Jordan Long, who I've also interviewed. He's done a great job as well. They're both Denver Nuggets followers. And
all right.
if you can't get him, let me know. Just give me a heads up. I'll go ahead and shoot them an email because they're interlinked. Those guys with a little bit of a sports organization that allows me to get some opportunities. But yeah, next week I've got Matt Moderno for the Washington Wizards. Again, he's a guy that heads up the Believe in Wizards podcast. Jennifer Matthew Lewis, who was here last year talking the Charlotte Hornets, she comes back again. Wes Morton, you said, Sean, from Peachtree Hoops, we've also got there coming up as well. So yeah, and then maybe even Daniel Riccio. We might give him another try. We'll see. Depends on if he hits us back. So we'll see if Sunday might be the thing for Daniel, but that's not guaranteed. But yeah, so far 4 confirmed. We're on our way to do all 30. Looking forward to doing it right here at the Lakers Fast Break. Just to throw something at you outside of the stuff that they're regurgitating for you at the other shows. My gosh, if you're trying to advertise one of your main topics, the SAG after strike, right there on one of the Lakers shows, that's kind of disappointing what they're reaching at. That just shows a lack of imagination. Get a pop culture show like I do, like the Pop Culture Cosmos, where you go ahead and talk more about that indeed. But no problem talking about entertainment as far as during the course of the conversation. You know, we do hear from time to time and movies and all that because these guys and gals that are out there like it. But yeah, that when you're depending on that as far as for your main part of the show, that's it's a little bit of issue indeed. And you know who I'm giving a shout out. So as far as that's concerned, but I will say this before we head on out, Wilt Chamberlain, one of the greatest players of all time, was mentioned in Dr. J's top 10, which again has become very controversial. Unfortunately, as you know, we know he's passed away many years ago, but his legacy still lives on as one of the most dominant scorers in our history, guys. And one of his last seasons in the NBA with the Los Angeles Lakers, the 1972 World Championship victory, Joe, I'm going to start with you first, my friend. His jersey from 1972 goes up on the auction block later this month. You can bid on it because the bidding goes for about a month from late August to late September. The thing, though, is, Joe, that is expected to go for about $4 million. Now, that's expected. Could go lower, could go higher, but $4 million. Do you think that's in the range of what a Wilt Chamberlain jersey should be?
No, I don't think any memorabilia should be that much. But what someone values has nothing to do with logic. If someone buys that jersey at $4 million in 2023, unless they're massive Wilt Chamberlain fans who like to collect things of Wilt Chamberlain, or Laker fans or whatever, they're buying that in a way to probably profit from it down the road. And I think a lot of people forget that. Simple-minded people, when it comes to money, will automatically think, oh my God, I can't believe someone is going to pay $4 million for a jersey. Do you remember hearing about stories in Vegas where people would spend $30,000 on champagne? And it was like, who the hell's spending $30,000 on
They
champagne?
still do.
Right? Well, now, because the jig is up, it was a marketing ploy, not only by the person who spent the $30,000, but it also promoted the club or whatever event that was involved with it. So everything when it comes to this kind of stuff is not what you think it is if you've got a simple mind on it. Someone's going to pay, let's say, $4 or $5 million for this jersey, and in 10 years, it'll be worth 10. So just remember that. Now, if you're a guy
These are investments, is what they are.
They are. Now, if you're sitting back and saying, I don't want to pay taxes on $4 or $5 million if I'm someone who has $50 million. I'm going to put my money in this and make money with it down the road, just like if you were to buy a house. So think of it that's why these things happen. Unless you're a trust fund baby that doesn't care about money, knows nothing about anything other than spending it, and wants to collect stuff. That's it. Those are the only two things that happen. And if you're one of those guys that's filthy rich and doesn't care, I remember Charlie Sheen. He was spending $30,000 on signed baseball cards and things like that. He loved baseball. He just would buy it because he enjoyed owning it.
I've told you about the time when I was running a go-kart track and he actually rented out, him and Nick Cage rented out, and they had their whole entourage came in. And
could you imagine hanging out with Nick Cage?
And this is 1990, okay, right around 1990, and that's
in their primes.
And they were all coked up and doped up, or whatever you want to say. They came in there, women, it's like arm in arm with like two women apiece, and yeah, they had their whole crew. It's like 20 people tops in the group. And yeah, they were like all drunk, all on drugs, all over the place, just driving all over the place. I'm yelling at them left and right. Knock it off! Start driving this.
God, I wish I had a video of that. That would have been hilarious to watch.
That was the best job when I had that one when I was running, because I could yell at anybody I wanted to. But when it comes to, Wilt Chamberlain, Sean, he's on my all-time top 10. He is firmly in there. He is one of the most dominant players I have ever even seen any footage of, and the stats back it up. I understand that Bill Russell always got his GOAT because Bill Russell always had the better team than him, for the most part. But as a player, as a dominant force, and yes, the myth, as you said in the chat room, as far as all the women he was with, as far as that's concerned, that's, obviously up for debate, but nobody can question the dominance he had on the court. And to see his jersey, a Lakers jersey, a proud Lakers jersey for one of the closing final moments of his career in a world championship, I think that's awesome to see. Outside of the 100-point game jersey, that would probably be the one I would want the most. I would still want the 100-point jersey more because I think that's so special in history. But my God, that 1972 jersey would be a sweet thing indeed. I would love to post that right behind me on the wall.
I always goad somebody with that line. It's, well, you know something, Wilt was more myth than man. What did he say?
Oh, you started the chat room with that. Yeah, everybody just woke up on that.
I know,
after they heard the Joe rant.
The problem with Wilt,
it's like smelling salts for
Oh, you
what?
woke them
Wilt
up.
is more myth.
The problem with Wilt,
down off the Joe rant, and then
the problem with Wilt is similar in a lot of ways to Shaq. Shaq and Wilt should have been number 1 and 2 all time.
Yeah.
But the problem was Wilt went 2 and 4 in 6 final appearances. Mm-hmm. And he should have won all 6. Same with Shaq. He went 4 and 2, should have won all 6. It's a completely different career if Wilt Chamberlain wins 6 championships out of 6. He is by far number 1. There would really be even the argument of him playing in a soft era wouldn't be there because you can't deny 6 and 0. Shaq would be his equal or maybe above him because of the era he played in.
And weren't people, when they were calling him out on the fact he didn't pass the ball supposedly and never passed the ball, didn't he lead the league in assists?
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Point.
That's the problem with Wilt is he cared about what people thought in the same way Shaq did as well. Mm-hmm. They couldn't just focus on. Now, Jordan cared about what people thought, but he used that fuel in a completely different manner because he was the greatest basketball player in terms of playing that's ever lived. That's the part that I have to argue against with people all the time. I go, it's a combination of the skill and the accomplishment. The reason why Michael Jordan is number 1 is because Michael Jordan had the greatest basketball skills ever, and he accomplished what he accomplished. Yes, Kareem could be considered the GOAT, but it's hard to say. It's hard to tell me that Kareem would beat Michael Jordan if they were to play against each other. It's just the center doesn't dribble the ball. The center has to wait to get the ball.
And a lot of Wilt's team lack of team success has a lot to do with Bill Russell intersecting into his career as well. Both Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain have to live with the fact that they both lost multiple Game 7s in NBA Finals to Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics. That's just a fact. It's just a fact. They're attached to the hip because of that. Wilt takes his hits for that, and so does Mr. West. Unfair, but that's just the way life is. It's a double standard. But the fact remains is that if there was a 6-point swing in both of those games, Joe, Wilt Chamberlain has 4 titles, not 2.
Well, we'll see what happens again. I thought the best quote was there is that just imagine if Shaq or Wilt had shot 75% free throws. I said if they decided to suck it up and shot
Shaq.
it Rick Barry style and shot 90%, my God.
It didn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered.
Shaq made them when they counted.
Shaq, I can honestly say this vividly. Shaq's free throws never cost the Lakers a game that mattered, or in general. Like, I don't remember any games.
Yeah, there was a game against the Sonics where I think he went like 0 of 21 or 0 of 22.
Was this in Orlando?
No, this is Seattle. This was
was he in Orlando?
He playing for Orlando?
No, this was the Lakers.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to check that.
I have to check that one. I don't remember that one. The only one I remember vividly with the Sonics is him getting kicked out in like the first 2 minutes.
I'm checking it now, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Shaq's issue in 2004 and in 1995 was he couldn't will those two teams to winning at all. And that's when you talk about Michael Jordan versus everyone else, Michael never lost those games. Yes, Michael lost in the second round, third round, coming back from retirement in those series. Yes, but when it was at the highest of the highest, he never faltered, ever. And as far as Bill Russell not being in the greatest of all time category, Bill Russell played with 8 Hall of Famers.
Magic Man, I just want to say that the one that shows up for Shaq is the one where he missed 21 free throws, but he had shot 39 attempts.
Okay.
That was against the Pacers.
Portland game.
It was Pacers.
Pacers.
Pacers. Sorry, I mean Pacers.
Pacers. That's the one.
And they won that game.
But he missed 21.
Because they were hack-a-shacking. That's really where it started.
Yeah. The most is Andre Drummond, just to let everybody know, to show you at one time how bad he was. He turned himself into a decent free throw shooter. By the time he went to the Lakers,
you know what Jerry West was? You know what Jerry West was? I want you to you guys watched I'm sure you can remember the 3 Tom Brady Super Bowl losses. If you look, Brady threw for 500 yards in the loss to Philly, his last Super Bowl loss. And he had the lead, or at least it was tied in the 2 Giant losses. Mm-hmm. Jerry West lost those finals, other than maybe 1973. He didn't play really well in 73. That was his last season in the NBA too. Jerry West played like Tom Brady in all those losses. He was never the reason why they lost.
Go ahead, Sean. You probably have something to update on those missed free throws.
At least from what I've heard.
Yeah, it says here he once missed all 11 of his free throw attempts in a game against the Seattle Supersonics on December
just 11, but not 21.
2000. Yeah, so my bad.
He's missed 21 in a game, but it wasn't over 20.
Yeah, I was confusing those two. I remember the 21 for some reason.
But again, had he and Wilt just did the Rick Barry grandma style, I think more players should do that. I know it's not sexy, it's not masculine. Joe would probably have a field day, but you know what? No. If it gets you more points, Joe, would you be hard on a player if he decided if he's a 50% free throw shooter? For Biyombo. Let's put Biyombo in this situation. Let's say, because Biyombo's still a name on there and about coming to the Lakers. Would you be upset if he switched to the Rick Barry style and went from a 37 to a 90% free throw shooter? Because
absolutely not.
It's pretty hard to go ahead and be inefficient as doing the grandma style.
I don't care if he does it out of his rear end style. Get 90% from 50. Yeah,
it's hard to do. It's hard to the angle that you would need for the rear end style.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's
hike it like
winning.
A football. Okay,
it's about winning. I don't care.
Okay. Yeah, see, more players should do that. More players, if they really are bad at the free throw line, they're leaving so many points on the board. I think that's a coaching issue as well. The coaches need to say and reinforce the fact, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to go ahead and miss free throws and be on the bench, or do you want to make your free throws and play?
I think it's a mental thing that they can't really fix.
Oh, yeah. But again, all it takes is one player, one predominant player playing a predominant amount of minutes, a star player saying, you know what, I'm tired of being a 60% free throw shooter, Sean. I'd like to go ahead and do more. And if you see them go to like a 90% shooter doing that, because it's if you know that technique, like Rick Barry, it's really easy to really become really proficient at it. It's just something where again.
And by the way,
that's all it would take, to my opinion.
Didn't you find that kind of like really corny by Adam McKay, who decides to just include that underhand free throw in one of the shots when Michael Cooper intentionally fouls him and fouls out of the game? I don't know. I just thought that was good. Like, it was a cool ode to him and everything. But again, like you said, like the optics that it looks like. But I mean, if guys knew how much money they would actually make by making most of the free throws, you'd be shocked, Gerald. You'd be shocked how much money these guys, well, Gerald wouldn't be, but most people would, how much money these guys leave on the table by just missing, even 40% of your free throws.
He
like Gerald
averaged
said.
90% throughout his career, Rick Barry.
Underhand. Yeah.
Underhand.
Yeah.
The lowest he ever was 86% as a free throw shooter.
the one guy who's been willing to make an adjustment and he doesn't care how it looks, and I think it'll bode well for him and his team is Jeremy Sohan. So the Spurs asked him to actually switch hands, shooting free throws now, Gerald, and he actually does it with his left hand. And he went from like a below average to 75%. And it take pride out of the equation. And what do you have left to argue against just trying it? Just trying it. What's the issue?
If I'm a
Unless it's
coach,
just
I
your
would have done it.
pride,
I would
yeah.
have said to these guys, okay, do you really want to go ahead and be a 50% free throw? Especially these kids in college. Some of these kids in college are awful. Like Dominic Klinging from
Yes.
huge 7'2", 260. It's going to probably average 18 and 12 rebounds next year in for Connecticut. The problem is he's shooting 50% free throws, and it doesn't look like it's going to get a whole lot better. Just imagine if he sucked it up and said, you know what, I'm going to shoot it Rick Barry style and go to 90%. There's the one key component of the game. That's the reason that could take him from a 5th or 6th in the draft Magic next year to a number 1. Just imagine if he was shooting 80% for the free throw line. A guy like that, a Dominic Kling.
Yeah, no, Gerald. If I can remember, the only two guys I think that shot well over 80%, 7 feet tall. One was Dirk, and then I want to say the other one was like Brad Miller or Yao Ming, like one of those two guys. But you're right; it's few and far between, Gerald. It's hard to understand a man that tall, and you can't get at least 75%.
All these players say, they want to do whatever it takes to win Joe. They want to do whatever it takes to win Sean. They want to do whatever it takes to win Joe. And they don't want to do whatever it takes to win when just a simple thing that they could go ahead and start doing, Joe. And they choose not to do it. They leave so many points off the table.
Another life lesson, folks. I know this is hard for some of you to understand. Almost every person in your life is full of crap.
Okay.
I mean, almost everyone, if not everyone. It takes a lot of it's draining for people to not be fake. That's why they're fake. They don't want to be real because of the backlash. The backlash when you're real to the bone is very harsh, to the point where you'll have uncles that don't like you sometimes. Family members that are supposed to be the highest of highest respect, because if you hold people accountable that are supposed to be your superiors, boy, that's even harder. So call it being cynic, call it being jaded. It's not. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with that. That's, again, society putting you down for being real. Most, if not all, people in your life are full of crap. And it's your job to say something so that you can deal with it less. Otherwise, you just keep making it go. Like, good example, I have a friend of mine who wants to be a businessman. He wants to sell things. He wants to do this. I told him 2 years ago, I said, you couldn't sell pencils to students ready to take a test. Wow, you're a dick, Joe. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And then when you see him in a situation where he's supposed to do stuff, nothing. I told him, I said, you're a hunter. You're not a salesman. You're about what you're going after. Stick with it. But it's a negative business for him. He wants to be in a more positive environment. And then I have to tell him, you are not a positive environment. You belong in chaos. F you, Joe. F you this. In a nice way. It's not like he doesn't talk to me. He's my friend. He's nuts. So be true to yourself. I know that's a cliche. Just be yourself. Don't be fake. If you suck at things, if you're good at things, Roll with it. If you suck at things, don't do it. If you're good at things, do that. And admit it. We all don't know everything. If you want to feel better about yourself, look at the difference between Jordan the player and Jordan the owner. I'm positive I would have been a better owner than Michael Jordan. Imagine that.
But Joe, it's an imperfect science, brother. John Elway was one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, and the Denver Broncos hired him to find their next quarterback, and he couldn't find him, man.
He did get Peyton Manning, though.
Yeah, Peyton Manning was fully cooked by the time he got it. They hired him.
He won him a Super Bowl with the 2.
Oh no, I'm not saying anything other than the fact that a guy who was a great quarterback couldn't find one to save his life until it was fully cooked.
John Elway, in my opinion, was successful in Denver by convincing Peyton Manning.
No. We're talking
I'm
about
going
two
to tell
different things here.
John Elway about what you just said. I'm just kidding.
All right.
Are you going to put a carrot in his mouth too? Real horse face on that guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about the 2 Bronco heads, him and Shannon Sharp, for years. And then I remember when they won the back-to-back Super Bowl, I remember the irony in that Shannon walks out with a literal Bronco hat.
Shannon's tongue has its own gravitational
So
pull.
Shanahan, Elway, and Shannon Sharp all looked like a horse. What are the chances? Like, you became your team. That's weird. What is this? It's kind of like when you looked at the Steelers in 2005 when Ken Wisenhunt was there, right? Like, you look at Ken Wisenhunt. I'm like, does everybody look like Bill Cowher now on this team?
Yeah, but no, you're right. You're right though. Shanahan does have that like a Clydesdale frying pan thing going on with his face. Yeah.
All right, but it is the Lakers fast break. Once again, Wilt Chamberlain's jersey for 1972. The Lakers had one of his final seasons. Obviously, there was a championship season for the Lakers that goes up for sale later this month. Expected to fetch somewhere around the neighborhood of $4 million. So if you want, you can bid on it later this month. If you need the details, give us just a shout out at Lakers Fast Break, or if you get your social media or LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. You got a month to go ahead. Then once it starts later this month, to go ahead and bid on it. Again, you're bidding on a moment in history. I would still, for that price, would go with the 100-point game first. But yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that would look sweet right behind me, hung up on the wall indeed. But before we head on out, until while since Lakers Fast Break, just wait until you get monetized. Maybe we will be able to afford it. We might buy that for the show. But before we head on out, Magic Man, you've got something for us before we head on out?
Yeah, Gerald. It's amazing when you think of this man, Wilt Chamberlain. He has 2 out of the 3 highest scoring games of all time in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who is sandwiched in between him?
Well, I don't want to say. Is it the 81 from Kobe, or is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Thought you were going to throw me a curveball, and I'm like, no, it's Kobe, 81.
No, there's no curveball. It's Kobe.
Okay.
So, I again.
And then after that, just like Elgin Baylor, I know he had like a 70.
I know.
78?
Yes.
What did Thompson have? David Thompson.
I think it was 72,
Okay.
73.
Are you getting some lofty heights there when you get into the
Yeah, well, I mean that's a great story in and of itself. When he scored that many points, George Gervin had to score 60, 63 at the final game to win the scoring title. That's a really cool story.
There's the David Robinson game against the Clippers where he had to score 70 something,
71. I think he got 71. Yeah. That again, another impressive
At the end of the
performance.
season, last day of the
Yeah.
season type deal to
Yes,
get the throwing
exactly.
title.
Gerald is correct. Very good, Gerald. Very good history
There you go.
there.
I don't I don't remember as much as you guys because it all seems to blur on by for me. But yeah, I try my best when I can. But
Kobe would have had 90 points had he recognized the night he was about to have.
we started out. He started out kind of slow.
Well, he didn't start out slow because he scored 24 points in the first half.
Yeah, well, that's
but if
still
he had
slow on a game like that.
if he had scored, let's say 40, and they were down, what was it? At some point, they were down 18.
Yeah, they were down 18 to 20.
Yeah, it would have been a whole different second half. But he definitely would have had 90 against Dallas when he scored 62 in the first three quarters.
But he got rested on that. So
Kobe scored 62 through three quarters. The Mavericks scored 61 as a team. Yeah. They scored 61 points as a team.
That statistic is mind-boggling.
Well, we'll see as far as the mind-boggling statistics there, but it is the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you joining us. Tomorrow we've got more great talk for you as far as for Thursday. Friday starts our NBA team previews officially, as we're going to have some great talk from Stephen Bagel coming back on the show to talk 76ers. We've already got 4 NBA team previews booked. We'll see what we can do about the other 25 teams. We can go ahead and get them booked as well. Want to go ahead and provide some entertainment, but also something different for you. And also how these other experts and fans of other NBA teams see themselves and how they see the Lakers as well. It's always interesting to get different perspectives and provide you as the viewer and listener exactly what everybody's thinking out there in the NBA land. So great talking to you. Great conversation. Gone on way much longer than I expected, but obviously it was for great entertainment purposes. So 2.5 hours here for you for the Lakers. No one else gives you 2.5 hours in the middle of August for a Lakers show. So I think that's pretty darn good from us here at the Lakers Fast Break. So for Joe Soro, Simblades with the Y.com and LakersBall.com, and the Magic Man, Sean Grice, Cheryl Glassford, thanks so much for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it. Intel, yeah, Wilt, if everybody forgets about his rebounding. And his rebounding, just like Bill Russell, was absolutely sensational indeed. But for Joe Soro and Magic Man Sean Grice, it's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll have another show tomorrow night talking about more great stuff in the NBA and Lakers right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.